I'm Dr. Bart Rademacher, and this is Prescription for Your Transformation. Real people, real conversations, and real success. And as always, I like to begin each section with just a bit of a monologue to kind of put this platform into perspective. Because there's an intelligence around us. There's an intelligence within us. And all we have to do really is discover the access or the pathways to that intelligence. We don't know everything clearly, but the problem is that we actually don't know what we don't know. And that's why I love these interviews, because these interviews will give you a light, shine a light on the possibility and the opportunities that lay ahead of you by knowing where to look. And so I'm super excited to be talking to PJ, or Paul Sorbo, an incredible entrepreneur in so many different ways that can inspire you to go to the next level. And we're going to share his story with you. You know, what is his mission? What is his legacy? What is the purpose? And what is the reason for what it is that he does, helping entrepreneurs on the one hand, but also more importantly, is giving you access to the tools and resources to optimize your health. Because ultimately, we all want to be the best version of ourselves, but the only way to get there is you have to have the right resources. And so it's people like Paul, or PJ, as his friends like to call him, is giving you the answers that you're looking for. So PJ, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me, my friend.
So we're going to do this in three parts. First, we're going to talk about, the stage that we find ourselves in. What's the situation? What's the environment? What's the culture? And as you put it, it's the culture of complacency and how that's a problem. That's number one. The second part, we're actually going to be talking about the platform that you're looking to create or that you are creating right now. And then the third part, the actual solutions, the way to optimize our health. And so I'm really looking forward to diving into all three of them. But let's start off with the stage. Where are we at right now, and why does it bother you?
We're in a really uncomfortable time, I think, for a lot of people. But the thing that I go back to, I had a really great meeting with a good friend the other week, and we were sitting there talking about how we both believe we're in a state of complacency as a whole. And we think it's a really dangerous state because it's the state in which people have stopped asking questions. And it's almost frowned upon to ask questions anymore, right? We're supposed to just take something at face value. It doesn't matter what it is, right? It could be something about a political affiliation. It could be something about a scientific background. It could be something about just a random event that's happening in the world. And the minute we see something on social media, or we see something from somebody that we read an article about, instantaneously, that is at face value. That's fact. And instead of asking questions anymore, we just now say, okay, yeah, that's where I'm going to go. And now we start to look down upon people, or people that are asking questions, wanting to get deeper and understanding. And ultimately, I feel like it's created this just A, hostile environment, but B, we're doing ourselves disservices, right? Like if you look at the scientific method as a whole, if you publish a research study, a portion of your research study literally needs to be, how can I disprove this? Or how can I make sure that this is better when I'm going forward? How am I actually asking, or how am I asking myself the questions on what could I have screwed up on during this, so that I know that this is sound science? Or I'm at least willing to look at those things for next steps. It's like we've forgotten that that is really a part of the scientific process in the world. And everyone is just like, I mean, not to bring it up, but let's just bring up something like, okay, coronavirus, it's a fact. Don't ask questions, right? So, and it doesn't have to be in anything, but it's just, I want people to start asking questions. I want to create a culture where it's okay to ask questions, where it's intelligent to ask questions. What are the right questions to ask? And I'll leave it at that.
So I'm kind of curious, what are your thoughts as to how we actually got to this point right now? because you're absolutely right. And I've got some of my own theories of why this is it happening. I mean, specifically the psychological or emotional issues that drive this. But I'm kind of curious to hear from you where you think it's coming from.
It's a really,
Why are we so complacent?
it's a really good question. I think that unfortunately that there was, I'm going to talk about a couple of different portions. I'm going to bring up the social media aspect of things. Instantaneously, information over the last 2 decades has become literally instant as possible, right? So I grew up in the generation where it was an awkward time to grow up in the schooling system because you had all these amazing things coming out where information was literally accessible at a moment's notice. But we were still in an old school train thought process where it was like, no, that doesn't have its place in the classroom. You should not be utilizing those. You need to memorize and regurgitate everything. Please list all of the presidents in order, right? Whatever that information was. And so our education system never adapted, and it still hasn't adapted, to be very frank, to the technology that's available. But from that, people started having information access access to information instantaneously, and it creates an instant gratification, right? Like, I mean, look at all the most successful apps. Swipe, 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 swipe. Biologically, we've been ingrained to want things instantaneously, and that digestion of information cognitively happens so quickly that you no longer have to read articles. You don't have to actually inform yourself on a topic. It's like headline, done, next. There's nothing else that happens. And then because it's so easily shareable, instantaneously that headline or whatever it was is to 50 other people that already have common beliefs, probably similar to yours, right? I was driving in the car yesterday. I love a small cheat meal during the week or something that I can go do. And I love In-N-Out Burger. It's just my thing, right? Do I eat it every day? No. But do I like it once in a while? Absolutely. I'm with one of my good friends in the car. And there was a photo that went around on social media with a term that was potentially printed on the bottom of In-N-Out Burger cups. That term was "Let's go Brandon." Now, did that end up being true? No, it didn't. But we were in the car and he was like, oh, dude, I love In-N-Out. Did you see what they printed on the bottom of their cups? Okay, instantaneously. We didn't ask why. We didn't ask would that a company like that actually do that. Did we ask what the credibility of the source was? No, it was literally instantaneously. There were 4 of us in the car. 3 people are like, oh my God, that was amazing. I support In-N-Out so much. I'm sitting there like, guys, that was not true by any stretch of the imagination. Just for the record, I will show you when we get into the restaurant. Lo and behold, there was nothing on the bottom of the cup, right?
Right.
But all of those people were in a similar social group. They had similar ideals, similar beliefs. And to be very frank, all of them wanted to believe that. And so that information no longer is like, oh, let me question on if that's actually real. It's cool, love it. And so media has capitalized on this. It's divisive. It's this instantaneous spread of information. I think that's one. Number 2, I think our schooling system is completely broken. I could go in on that for hours. We're no longer taught to be critical thinkers. And I don't even think we've ever been taught to be critical thinkers, to be very frank. Been taught to this is how you do things. This is how you fit into a system. This is why traditional education works, so that large companies can fund the government can fund the school entities, and you play your role in society because they don't want you to be this free thinking, like they don't want you to be me. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but our education is not set up to thrive on people that or to thrive for people that think out of the box and for people that ask questions on why the hell do I need to do that?
Yeah, so I can answer, so many different levels in what you shared. But let me just start off with the scientific method. And I think that that's key. And the fact that, there's this absence of critical thinking. And where does it also come from? Is our mind is designed, if you are, unconscious mind is designed to take the path of least resistance. And so when we're programmed to believe that the path of least resistance is this, and this is what's happening, I mean, it's like, herd mentality, you got to have this. I mean, and this is not new. I mean, this has been around for eons. I mean, it's the whole idea of, being the same as the Joneses, what's different about me, I want to be like them. And, but the truth is about the critical thinking is that it's too hard. The other day I heard about a Subway couldn't sell any of their sandwiches. Why? Because the teller machine was dysfunctional. So they couldn't add the math. They couldn't do the math to be able to sell the sandwiches. And so they shut down. So this is the problem. You're right. Technology is so accessible that people don't even remember names. They don't remember telephone numbers. They don't even remember how to get somewhere. And the fact that when we make life so freaking easy, then, you stop thinking. I mean, right now, I went to Burning Man this year, and I use my GPS. And I remember those days when we just had to pull out the map and just think how you challenge your brain to think properly, and it allows you for creative thinking. But getting back to the scientific method, I want to agree with you, because this is what people don't understand, is that the scientific method is this. As an example, it's not so much that you want to prove that all swans are white. You want to prove that not all swans are white. And that is more definite, because if I want to prove that all swans are white, well, I'll just go to a place where I just find white swans and say, hey, this is fact. It's exactly what you're saying, right? Where the scientific method is, okay, let me prove or disprove this theory. So if I find a swan that's black or gray or blue or whatever it is, then I can make that statement that's definite. Not all swans are white. And I look at it from the perspective, and I like to hear your thoughts on this. There's a couple of things. It's a sense of inadequacy, it's a sense of fear, but it's also a sense of recognizing that we all want certainty in our lives, but with the tremendous amount of information and misinformation, you don't know what to pick. That's my challenge these days. What I'm doing right now when it comes to politics, it's very hard for me to have a definite opinion, because I would have to dive into the rabbit hole to figure out what's fact and what's not, what's BS and what's not. And I just don't have the time for that. And so I'm collecting all this information. So maybe one day I'll sift through all of my archives to figure out what really happened, with whatever it is that we're talking about, because right now it's so hard to come up with a definite conclusion about what's real, which is why I have this platform, by the way, which I started 5 years ago, because I recognized that if, the information we're getting at that time, was static. It was just what's on the website. Maybe somebody posted a video up there, but it wasn't dynamic. It's not like this. And so I started off, and it's kind of cool. Clubhouses has the same kind of mantra, like it's authentic conversations. Well, I've been doing that for 6 years, real people, real conversations, real success, the authentic conversations, so people can connect, with us right now, you and me, and then make a decision. Do I like this person? Do I resonate with their ideas? Because you're right, there is no more discourse anymore. No, there's not that space where we can have intelligent and respectable conversation about the facts, right? As you say, people jump to conclusions right away. And the final thing I'm going to share with you, and I've seen this in Europe as well. Was it 20 years ago when all you had the soccer fanatics going crazy and beating each other up and everything else? It was an identity crisis. And I think that's what we have right now. We have an identity crisis because people are losing their identity. Social media is not helping. And so, and it's not the first time people have lost their identity. And so they hold on to something. And if it's go Brandon or against go Brandon, whatever that is, that's their identity. They're not choosing for themselves.
Nope. No, you're right. And you're right. It's not the first time that it's happened. If you look at history at any point, you'll see identity crises throughout whatever time period you want to look at, whether it's on a micro or a macro scale. Right. If you look at the 70s, everyone thinks that this time of the 70s was this, oh, peace, love, happiness. No, there was a huge identity crisis happening in civil population. We had an entire group of people that were identifying as rebels, as well as a traditional mindset. And that was a massive issue on top of everything that was going on outside of the US at that time, right? So to your point, we do have an identity crisis happening right now. And a lot of that I feel as though is because people don't feel as though they have the platform to be their true authentic self. And I think that's really sad, right? I think that the fact that social media, and I'm not even going to blame all of social media, because I think there are portions that social media has done to connect people, right? There are absolutely things that this whole digital world, and if you've studied any of this digital world, and I'm not talking metaverse, I'm not talking where Facebook's going, but if you've ever watched the show or the movie Ready Player One, if you haven't, great movie. But one of the things that is a cohesive vision in that entire movie and the whole plot line is that this artificial world has created a place for people to connect that may have never connected outside of this artificial world.
Absolutely.
Right. And looking up and seeing the kids that used to feel not included are now feeling included through esports and being able to connect to friends across the world that they don't have to be physical with. Awesome. I think that platform is unbelievable. And I think that's one of the best things that's come from this digital age. Outside of that, though, it's taken away the in-person communication. It's taken away that fact that we can form meaningful relationships and that we don't have to agree all the time, right? It's really easy for me to turn off the power button when I don't feel comfortable. I'm done. I'm out, right? But if we're at a dinner table and we're not all comfortable because we're not talking about the same conversation and we're not all sharing the same political beliefs or rationalizations or whatever it is that you want to call it, you can't just turn off the power button, right? And so I feel as though a skill set that we've lost, unfortunately, is that ability to rationalize and have those really unique, amazing conversations, by the way, because that's where the truth comes from, right? Is that's where we have those conversations and that platform to actually discuss, to educate one another. Because I don't want my opinion to be the same as yours, Bart. Like that doesn't do me any favors. I want you to view the world differently than I do. And I want to understand why you view the world differently. I want to understand what your background is. I want to understand why you have, if you have the same exact opinions as me, it should mean that you've had the exact same life as me. And that's boring.
And that's the point that I also share all the time. I mean, we're also critical about diversity. Let me get that word out correctly, right? Diversity, when that's exactly the genesis of all creativity, is being able to see different worlds in different ways and really expand our mind.
Totally.
And so I think that is such an important thing. And so this is the stage that we're at. And what's remarkable about you is because with your background, your experiences, it's motivated you to look outside of the box and create a world and opportunities for other people as well. And at such a young age. And I think that's awesome. You know, I'm like twice your age, I think, right now, you know, and I'm doing some of the things that you're doing right as well. And so it's exciting that an individual like yourself at this age is a shining light and a model for others, that it's not good to be complacent, that it's okay to think on your own. And in my terms, you know, I don't even have a box. You know, my world is my oyster. I mean, there's always possibilities. It's all a blue ocean. It's everything out there, and it's just as far as your imagination will go. And you just have to have the courage, you know, to be wrong, to make mistakes, and kind of be ostracized too, because I'm sure that happens because people just don't understand your world.
Yeah.
So this is awesome that you're at this place. So this is the first part of our conversation, setting the stage. I know that we could talk, you know, an entire hour or more about this, But part two is, what are some of the solutions that you're going to deliver to people like yourself that are looking to make a difference in this world, but don't necessarily have all the resources? That's going to be part two. That's the next part that we're going to talk about. But how do people find you, PJ?
Easiest way is ironically social media. So Instagram, PJ Sorbo, Facebook, same as well. Ton of podcast platforms, and LinkedIn, Paul Sorbo. Those are going to be the easiest. My direct email is paul@gomixtech.com, and I always love to talk to people. So any one of those are great to connect with me on.
Great. Awesome. I'm Dr. Bart Rademacher, and this is Prescription for Your Transformation: Real People, Real Conversations, and Real Success. Tapping into that intelligence that's within us and around us, finding diversity and creativity, stepping away from what we think is the easier path of complacency. Because the truth is this, and the Greek philosophers made it very clear to all of us 2,000 years ago, we cannot live an attentionless life. Our happiness comes from growth, from expansion, and for that, we need tension, we need problems, challenges, what have you, so that we can expand and create a better world for all of us. PJ, thank you so much, and we'll be back for part two.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Dr. Rademacher's Prescription for Your Transformation. Continue the path towards discovering your own authentic genius by tuning in next time for more real conversations with real people.